Good afternoon, everyone. Earlier today, I spent a few minutes with Coach Belichick in our war room as we prepare for this NFL draft. And we were talking about a certain position that's significant need for us and the trade-off between a couple of different skill sets that Bill likes to see in that position. And he made a comment how rare it is to find individuals who possess both of these skill sets. And that conversation got me thinking about the skill sets I most admire in CEOs. And the two of them that are at the top of my list are, number one, those CEOs who have the discipline and meticulous organizational skills to manage complex global organizations with tens of billions of dollars of revenue and tens of thousands of employees, as if they were much smaller, less complex, and more entrepreneurial businesses, and at the same time achieve above average growth and always seeming to do the right thing strategically. And number two, those CEOs who are so creative and artistic from a product design and innovation standpoint that they drive their company with their passion for their product and product innovation, which they play a significant hands-on role in. And much like the position Bill was looking at earlier today, it is very, very rare to find CEOs who are truly world-class in each of these areas. But our speaker today is one of those people. Mark Parker's performance as CEO since 2006 is truly remarkable. But before I tell you how remarkable it's been, it's important to give you some background. He's a New Englander, in my opinion, because he started his career here after graduating from Penn State in the late 70s. He joined Nike as a shoe designer in its R&D facility in Exeter, New Hampshire, in 1979, while the company was still in its infancy. Even Peter Lynch hadn't invested yet. Early in his career, he contributed to many of the designs that helped bring the dawn of a new era into the athletic shoe industry, where a basic commodity product like shoes was turned into an art form. As a designer, Mark pushed the envelope. He used new materials to enhance the functionality of the footwear and improve its performance. He used his appreciation for aesthetics to make the shoes fashionable. It wasn't long before the brilliance of this creative designer was recognized and rewarded with added responsibility. As he rose up through the ranks, he developed great strategic sense and managerial experience. He seamlessly transitioned from the world of product design into the role of general management, earning the title of VP and GM of a global footwear just 9 years after joining the company. Mark has now been part of Nike for 35 years and has not only played an integral role in the company becoming the dominant global brand in footwear and athletic performance apparel, really having created the category, but also advancing that iconic swoosh, the Nike swoosh, which to me is one of the most iconic brands in the world. Mark was named CEO in 2006, just as the world was about to enter a period of financial disruption and slow growth. Yet, all Nike has done is thrive. A design and innovation business selling customer products that constantly need to be innovated and also at the same time developing new aesthetics. Nike has grown at a compounded growth rate since he took over of 8% in a world that has been lucky to break 2%. While achieving this growth, he has grown profitability and totally distanced himself from his competition while growing his market cap by 350%. With the exception of Apple, no other global consumer product has come close to this kind of performance. Finally, Mark has accomplished all of this with the added complexity that very few public CEOs have had to manage, which is the presence of the founder, CEO Phil Knight, who is 75 and still, in my opinion, is a very dynamic, vibrant, and active individual. And he also happens to be Nike's chairman and largest shareholder. But I think that Mark has been brilliant how he has balanced that. And especially those of us in family companies with the old timer hanging around know that that can be a challenge. 3 years ago, their mission was extended to all the athletes in the National Football League when they partnered with us. And they have become wonderful partners in that relationship. And a few years ago, right after that, I had the privilege of going out to their campus and meeting Mark. And when I met him, I saw that he was wearing some very attractive sneakers, the same ones he's wearing today. And it put a thought in my head. If you think you're an okay CEO, why not wear sneakers if they're more comfortable? And since that day, I've been wearing these Air Force Ones. And I didn't do it just because of him. It was nice. Karen Kaplan has seen me at some things, and she mentioned that I do it. So whether it's the Oscars, the Grammys, the streets of Roxbury or Mattapan or Foxborough, I'm wearing Air Force Ones, and I thank you for that. And some people think I'm cooler and younger because of it. So therefore, it is my pleasure to introduce our great partner, Mark Parker, the CEO of Nike.
Wasn't that nice? Actually, I want to thank you for your incredibly kind and warm introduction. And I want to thank you all for being here. This is an honor and a privilege for me to be here and speak to you. I do want to say a couple words about Robert. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge his leadership and that of his son Jonathan in making the Patriots a franchise that is so dominant on the field and so respected off of it. You know, it's been a real privilege to work with you, Robert, and your organization. I'd also like to recognize the wider leadership role that Robert plays with the NFL. Nike's work with the league has far exceeded our expectations, and that is in no small part due to visionary owners like yourself. So thank you very much. I'd also like to thank, of course, the CEO Club of Boston for the invitation to speak to you today. I'll start by saying that although Nike is based in Oregon, we are no strangers to Boston and have strong connections to the many athletes and teams from Boston through the years. Athletes like Doug Flutie or Paul Pierce, Shane Victorino, Shalane Flanagan, Jacoby Ellsbury. He still counts, right? Oh, okay. There you go. Well, that was right on cue. Okay. And then also already introduced was Joan Benoit Samuelson. And I just want to say a couple words about Joni myself. Joni is a long-time personal friend of mine, a long-time Nike athlete. She is a impassioned advocate for environmental sustainability. She gives so much back to her sport of running and is an advocate for lifelong fitness. Joni is a great friend and an incredible person. I will add, you know that she ran in Boston, I think it was 11 days ago. And she ran 2:52, 2 hours, 52 minutes. She's almost 57. She probably doesn't want me to tell you that, but in 2 weeks she'll be 57 years old. So 2:52. And then 6 days later, she goes down to D.C. and runs a half marathon. So that's in the last 11 days. So... She's, I think, what I would call incredibly inspirational. She has been for me and for Nike over the years, and a little bit crazy. And we like that combination. So, Boston's always been an important part of Nike in other ways. It's played an important part of Nike's history in retail. We opened our first East Coast retail store in the Boston area, and we've had a robust retail and marketing presence here ever since. The presence will only grow, I will add, with the coming move of the Converse headquarters to Boston early next year. Converse, which you may know, was founded back in 1908 in Malden, Mass. It's a really important and vital part of our portfolio. And I do want to recognize Converse CEO Jim Calhoun, who is also with us today, for his leadership of this storied brand. Thank you, Jim. As Robert mentioned, my Nike career started just up I-95 in Exeter, New Hampshire. So this is something of a professional homecoming for me. When I started out in 1979, it's still hard for me to say that. It just seems so long ago. And I think I'm pretty rare to be at the same company for such a long time, but it's been a thrill for me all those years, and it continues to be. But I started out as a product designer. I was also a product tester, self-professed running geek at the time. At that time, Nike was an American company, several hundred employees, and I think our revenues were about $150 million in retail, or in revenue. We were an upstart company that was fiercely independent and proudly irreverent. Today, we're a company with around 50,000 employees and over $25 billion in revenue. From our base in Oregon, we've expanded into a global company operating in over 190 countries around the world. We are still, I'm proud to say, irreverent, still independent. If we've mellowed at all, it's probably in our awareness and our openness to the importance of partnerships. We're still willing to go it alone, but more than ever, we see collaboration as a significant driver of our success. As Nike has grown and evolved, two words have always been incredibly important and central to everything that we do, and that's innovation and inspiration. As our mission statement says, Nike exists to bring innovation and inspiration to every athlete in the world. And there's an asterisk next to the word athlete. And that asterisk references something that Nike co-founder Bill Bowerman once said, if you have a body, you're an athlete. And what that means is if you're LeBron James or you're James from down the street, Nike is focused on you. You are important to Nike as an athlete, no matter what your skills are. By the way, that wasn't always our mission statement. For a long time, it had been to be the number one sports and fitness company in the world. And in 2002, we were the number one sports and fitness company. So we felt it was important to revise our mission statement and our corporate values. We wanted a mission statement and a set of values and guiding principles that were really true to the spirit of the company, that were really forward-looking, aspirational, and that employees would actually reference and use in their work. Not some corporate pamphlet that turned out to be a well-designed dust collector. So we revised our mission statement and renamed our principles maxims, and we put them into a language that was meaningful and lively. Maxim number 6, it happens to be one of my favorites. It's called Be a Sponge. And it speaks actually directly to how we nurture and cultivate a culture of innovation and inspiration. And I'll read it to you. It reads, curiosity is life, assumption is death. Look around, open your heart and your mind, and you open the future. Technology, history, diversity, geography. Today is a time of unparalleled interplay among cultures, courageous new combinations of sports, fashion, music, movies, food, and the rest are redefining what is possible and relevant. Embrace this exchange. Develop wide peripheral vision. There are great ideas lying around like diamonds in the dirt. The brightest are those that you see out of the corner of your eye. Now, my mission is to create a dynamic environment where this sort of curiosity is encouraged and rewarded. And to accomplish this, you have to manage uncertainty. In my experience, leaders who manage with certainty just wind up protecting the status quo. I don't want to protect the status quo. I want to upset it. So as a leader, I manage with a tolerance for uncertainty, and I'm willing to accept mistakes, because this puts Nike in a better position, I think, to create the future. I'll give you an example of how this translates into our design and innovation work. When I started as a designer, our design horizons were quite short. In fact, we would design one season in advance, so that means we're designing ahead of the market by only 3 to 6, maybe 9 months. Today, we still have a seasonal design agenda, of course, but we've also greatly expanded our design and innovation horizons. We have advanced R&D groups that are looking ahead 2 and 5 and sometimes longer periods of time. And the goal is to push the boundaries of what people expect or they even imagine. And then we have something we call the innovation kitchen. And the engineers and the designers who are part of this team have the brief to push past the edge of the envelope and to see game-changing collaborations and partnerships. And not all of their ideas come to fruition, as you can imagine. In fact, many of them do not. But we're okay with these failures. In a sense, we want our designers to become talented failures, in the same sense that John Wooden meant when he said, "The team that makes the most mistakes usually wins, because doers make mistakes." Because when they succeed, our designers succeed and they hit the mark, the products that they develop don't just refine shoes and apparel, they redefine them. Of course, our efforts to be at the forefront of innovation are not completely free-form and organic. There is a great deal of discipline and focus to what we do. We don't innovate just for the sake of something new. We do so with a real clear purpose, to make a meaningful difference, to be real and relevant, and to be better. Which is why we work so closely with athletes to gain the deep insights that really drive the innovation. And this is something that's really remained constant over Nike's 40-plus years. When Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman shook hands and they started the business that would become Nike, they really didn't have much. There were no stores, there were no warehouses, there were no distribution channels, and they just had about $1,000 between the two of them. But what they did have was a deep knowledge of sports and a real passion for working with the athletes and creating products that would help those athletes realize their full potential. This turned out, in the end, to be their most valuable asset. For the last 4 decades, we have nurtured this passion for working with the athlete, for listening to the athlete, listening, as we say, to the voice of the athlete. The voice keeps telling us to innovate. It's really driving those insights that fuel that innovation. It's what we would call our rudder in the water. The process of helping athletes be the best that they can be really puts us in a position to fulfill our own potential. You know, many of the athletes we work with are really the best at what they do. And people often ask me, are Nike athletes just high-priced billboards for the swoosh? And the answer I've always given is an emphatic no. Nike athletes are some of the world's best experts out there. They know their sports, they understand the demands on their bodies, they know their equipment and what it needs to do. Sometimes this understanding seems almost beyond what's humanly possible. I'll give you an example. we were testing a new driver with Tiger Woods. We had sent him 8 samples of the driver and asked him which one he preferred. He said the heavy one. There's only one small problem. They all weighed the same. Or at least, according to our club designers, they weighed the same. But this was Tiger Woods, so we decided to reweigh them. And in fact, one of the clubs was actually heavier, but not by much. In fact, by 1 gram. And 1 gram is about the weight of a dollar bill. So it just shows you the sensitivity that the athletes have to their equipment. It's incredible. And their desire to have something that works for them pushes us to reach our own potential. And to me, that's one of the things I love about what we do. You know, in games where there's a gram or a fraction of an inch or 100th of a second can really spell the difference between being a champion or being an afterthought. It's that sort of precise, one-of-a-kind feedback that really ensures that the innovations stay real and really serve a purpose. When you work with athletes that are as demanding as Tiger Woods, you don't just innovate for the sake of change. You innovate to change the outcome. And because our athletes demand that we get it right, it keeps us focused on what's essential and really what matters. And that in turn propels us to develop products that are authentic and that allow us to connect with consumers in a real meaningful way. And that's really the second key element that has not changed at Nike, and that's our unrelenting focus on the consumer. Our ability to connect with the people who use our product, who buy our products, has fueled the Nike brand and helped explain our success and our staying power. To cultivate loyal customers and create the real emotional connection, it's imperative that we engage with them and understand their culture and the communities that they're a part of. You really have to go deep, and it must be deep in a two-way dialogue, especially in this age of social media. As we know, consumers are more connected than ever before. They have more choices. They can easily compare products and publicize their opinions and the choices they make, not just to their immediate social circle, but potentially far beyond that. And it's more important than ever that companies like Nike give consumers choices that are real, relevant, and authentic. We have to focus. We have to be willing to get not at things that don't waste and amplify the things that do. Get rid of the waste, I should say. And that is why I consider one of the most important roles I have as CEO is that of an editor. By editing, we can actually amplify the power of what we do. The best products, I think, from an innovation sense, from a business sense, are the ones that are purposeful. And the stuff that really isn't necessary is taken out. The focus on the essential extends beyond how we make products to how we organize our business. At Nike, we call this our category offense. And what that means is instead of a traditional organization, in our case, focused on footwear, apparel, or equipment, we organize our business to focus on consumers in distinct sport categories, like running and basketball, football, skateboarding, and so on. And by concentrating on these categories, we are far more aligned and far in a better position, I think, to engage consumers when they compete, when they train, and when they want to express themselves through a lifestyle lens. Not only do we put the best product in people's hands, but as a business, we are more competitive, I think, and ultimately more nimble. We don't let our size get in the way. We make it an advantage. You know, in my early days working at Nike as a designer, I would sketch a lot when I was on my way to work, when I was traveling. And seeing my drawings, people would sometimes ask what I did. And I tell them I designed shoes. Often they'd respond by saying, really, what more can you do with shoes that hasn't already been done? That goes back to 1979. And that's a good question. In fact, it's a great question, and it's the one we keep asking ourselves. It's really the one that keeps us up at night. And as much as sports and the business of sports has changed in 35 years, my answer to that basic question has never changed. There is a tremendous amount we can do with shoes and other products. In fact, there's never been so much opportunity to innovate than there is today. And I think by a wide margin. Whether it's cutting-edge manufacturing techniques like waterless dyeing, 3D printing, high-tech knitting, product customization or personalization, digital technology, wearable technology, I still see almost endless opportunities for new innovations and new works to inspire consumers. Of course, while our opportunities are unlimited, our resources are not. So as we line up against the opportunities to grow and innovate, we have to grow sustainably. I believe that growth and sustainability aren't contradictory, they're complementary. I also believe that businesses that fail to see this won't have much of a future in business. Reducing and eliminating waste, achieving new levels of efficiency and energy consumption, decreasing our water usage. All of these areas present exciting possibilities to harness the power of innovation and to collaborate with new partners and meet our sustainability goals and add value to the business. So at Nike, we are incredibly energized by the future and all it holds. We're excited by the new possibilities to partner and to collaborate. Not just with athletes, but also with some unconventional partners, like artists, NGOs, and universities, including some great schools and research institutes like right here in Boston. We seek such collaborations because a huge part of our future potential depends on our ability to work with and actually learn from others. These are also some amazing times for innovation in other ways. If you look at our innovation pipeline, it's fascinating. I've never seen a time when I've been so excited about innovation. Just take materials as one example. One of the last truly disruptive material changes in our industry was polyester, and that's already over 50 years old. Today, we imagine new materials and a world of possibilities that you could have with fabrics that adjust to body temperature, that harden upon impact, that change color in response to electrical signals, or monitor vital signs. Such transformative materials are just the start, and they will be a reality. There's many more exciting frontiers out there, and at Nike, we are pushing hard not just to cross those frontiers first, but to do it in the most inspiring and innovative way possible. So with that, I want to thank you very much again, and then open it up for some questions. Thank you. Yes.
This may seem a little incongruous, but what is your assessment of barefoot running and its potential for...
Oh, here we go. Well, first of all, I'd say all runners are very different. I actually like a more minimal shoe underfoot, but that spectrum runs the gamut. And I think it's important for runners to recognize what's unique and important for them personally. We have a technology called Nike Free, which is all about actually a design that works with the body in motion, with the foot in motion. So it's allowing the foot to act more naturally. And we have a range of free products that go from what you might call more barefoot-based, we call Free 1.0, all the way up to what we call Free 7.0, which is more cushioning. But the basic underlying principle is that you have this freedom of movement for your foot. And if you need more cushioning, it's there. If you don't, then it's there also. So it's really up to the runner. Yes.
Investment colleagues Boston and Munich. I was told that you might have a couple of competitors in Germany. And I was also told that they are not as successful as you are. Any advice that they could take back home?
No. You know what? I'll just say that I don't like speaking about our competitors. Honestly, I will say that we're focused on our potential, not our competition. I would say as a leader, it's important to focus on your potential and not your competitors. And that's what a leader does. And that's where true leadership and innovation come from. Not by looking behind you or alongside of you, but looking ahead. And I've always believed that. I think that's true with athletes as they look at ways to improve their and realize their own potential. And certainly it's been true for Nike. So no advice for those people that you mentioned. Other than that. Yeah.
Back here.
Oh, here we are. Sorry.
Thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. My name is Peter Pfeiffer. A request and a question. Growing up, I had an inspirational poster above my bed in high school, and I took it to my college and had it taped up, and I had my bunk in the Army, and I got married, and it's gone. And it was, there isn't a finish line. So I don't know if you guys have like a classic place on your website to get those for the kids that but I thought it was really inspirational. I don't know if you still have that. So that's a request. If someone can track me down, it'd be great, because it really said a lot by saying the middle. The second thing is actually innovation versus image. There's a lot of confusion out there regarding the innovation you discuss and your competitors and the image that the athletes represent. So for the average consumer, how can you or how do you differentiate yourself as regards to innovation versus image?
Well, I think the two go hand in hand. I think part of our image comes from the innovation that we create. And that innovation really comes, like I said, from the athlete. That relationship we have with the athlete is where those deep insights come from. And apart from what many people might think, the athletes are actually deeply engaged in the innovation process. I mentioned Tiger Woods, but I can tell you, dozens of other stories that are incredible. In fact, should be in a book at some point. But and that's always been central to Nike and who we are and what we're all about, is that connection we have to the athlete. So I think that'll always be the case. As far as your first question, we'll set you up. There's no problem. In fact, I just want to add that there is no finish line. That was an ad slogan, but much more than that, it was an internal sort of guiding principle for Nike. It's how we live, how we think, how we act. I think Joan Benoit, who is here, Joan Benoit Samuelson, I'm sorry, she is a living example of that to me. I know that's a saying from Nike that really resonates with her, as it does with all of us, and we believe it. I mean, it's really, really as good as we do, as much as we achieve. We always feel like we could be better. We are our own biggest critics, which I like. I like being in that position. And we're always striving to be that much better. Joni, though, she personifies that as one athlete. 56, almost 57, and doing what she does on a regular basis. Sorry, Joni, didn't mean to keep bringing your age up. I'm a year older than she is, so. Yeah. Yes.
Would you like to comment on the issue of tariffs versus no tariffs?
Honestly, no. But no. Well, I think we're working closely with the government, U.S. government, on the TPP work that's going on. We feel that it's important to have that close connection and to work on what's really ultimately going to present a level playing field for U.S. companies, what's going to create jobs. We feel strongly that we are in a position to invest in the U.S., for example, North America, to create jobs. And we think that the position that we're taking and working with the U.S. government on this issue is going to help make that happen. So we support a leveling of the playing field, let's put it that way. Yes.
Professor Stephen Gracer, Harvard Business School. Recently, I saw remarks that you made with regard to what the rest of the world calls football and Nike's endeavors. I was wondering whether you could talk to that in the context of being a global company and being associated with events such as the World Cup, which are indeed global. Yes,
good question. Yeah, the World Cup is obviously the most popular, maybe not obviously, but it is the most popular sporting event in the world. It's a sport that has incredible following just about every place you can look around the world. The World Cup has always been important to Nike in terms of our connection to that sport, expressing what we're all about. The innovation that we're delivering for this year's World Cup is well beyond anything we've ever done before in all facets of our business, not only in product but in communication. We have a World Cup ad that just hit a week ago. It's online. I think there's 60 million plus views already in the last 7 days. So there's a lot of anticipation, a lot of energy and excitement coming up to the World Cup. Nike is a global company. Global football, soccer is incredibly important to us. We started out in 1994 really with nothing, and we are the world's #1 football company in the world today, certainly if you measure that by #1 position in markets and footwear around the world. So I'm incredibly proud of what we've done within sport of soccer and football, and excited about what's coming up with World Cup. It should be a great tournament, a great event. I just came from Brazil, or not Brazil, I'm sorry. I was just in Brazil before, but I just came from Madrid, where we launched more of our innovation story for the World Cup, and incredibly exciting, great response. So I think you'll be impressed with what we have coming. Thank you.
Hi, with some of the recent announcements around your strategy related to the fuel ban, could you comment a little bit on the future of digital for Nike and where that fits?
Sure.
3 to 5 years.
Yeah, well, digital, I've said this before many times, continues to be incredibly important for Nike. The fuel band exists. We will continue to support the fuel band as a product. We have new iterations coming out, actually, throughout this next few months. And it's a product that has resonated as a part of what we call Nike Plus, which is a larger digital community of about 28 million users. We're looking to grow that user base to 100 million plus, Nike Plus as a community. We're looking at new ways to do that. We just opened up what we call a Nike Plus lab down in San Francisco, inviting collaborations and partnerships to look at how we can actually bring Nike Fuel to life and to scale with some incredibly innovative ideas. We have a long-standing relationship. It's no news with Apple. That relationship will continue. Very excited about where that will go. I really can't speak to that at this stage, but we're looking at other partnerships as well. But I'll make it incredibly clear, we're very committed to digital technology as it relates to the user experience in terms of sports and fitness as a motivating tool, I have to tell you, I've had many people come up to me and tell me that Nike Plus or the Fuel Band has changed their life. They've lost 30, 40, 50 pounds. They feel like a different person. They're much more aware of how active they are or they're not. And we want to be a part of that and be an innovator in that space. So we're very committed to developing the partnerships that allow us to do that. Yeah.
Take one more question.
Robert Kraft started us off today by saying that successful CEOs have an ability to make large organizations feel smaller. You're obviously running an incredibly complex organization. What are some of the things you do to make it feel smaller?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, one of the things that's, I'll say is a challenge, although I like to replace the word challenge with opportunity, is the editing process. There are literally so many opportunities in all facets of our business, by category, by country, by product type, by sport, that we have to really edit and focus on the things that really matter. And that's probably the biggest challenge / opportunity we have. So for us to edit properly, you've got to set up some criteria that you refer to in that editing process. So it literally becomes part of a filter. And it's not up to me as a CEO to do all of that filtering. It's up to me as a CEO to make sure that there is a filter there that people can refer to as they make choices as to what to focus on. So it's clear to us what our big growth opportunities are, and we are incredibly aligned against those growth opportunities. Sometimes we have new opportunities, as I said, in those areas beyond what's expected, beyond the imagination of the consumer. And those areas we want to be prepared for too. So we're laser focused on delivering in a disciplined way on the short term while we invest for opportunities to grow over the longer term. And the best way to do that is to, again, set up a culture that is open to new ideas, but also has that discipline to edit and focus on the things that really matter. And that's gone from being a bit of a tedious process to one that we have embraced, and it's a source of actually great energy for us. Okay.